let's take a look at what continuous cover forestry is in action, and let's go to the forest, and then after that we will have Jussi Saarinen discussing with us these matters. First, we go to the mineral-rich soil and discuss this matter further on. So let's run the videos.
All right. Welcome to the show part number 2 here in the forest. Now I have a pleasure of having a guest, a specialist, Jussi Saarinen. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I'm Jussi Saarinen. I'm a forester and I have a forest service company, Silmu, which is specialized in doing continuous cover forestry management.
How did you pick up continuous cover forestry in the first place?
Well, it was already a few decades ago I got interested in kind of combining close to nature economic forestry and managing forests like in a better way than we are still doing.
How would you describe that? What is the most important part in continuous cover forestry in theory?
Well, I would say it's the continuous cover, so that we have forest that trees all the time in the forest. So kind of we like forests that have trees.
That's a good rule of thumb, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the very first thing that when you start creating a forest management plan for a certain area of forest?
Well, it's kind of important to have enough data of the forest. You know what kind of stands you have, what kind of different structures you have in the forest, and normally nowadays you get that information quite easily from remote sources, and but also if necessary you make measurements so you know what you have and think about what to do in each stand, kind of a uniform place where you have certain structure of the forest. So then you make a plan how to manage different places, and then that's kind of a good basis for managing the whole place. And then you make like more closer planning when you actually do thinnings and cuttings.
But how reliable or how good a picture do you get from the public information without visiting the actual forest?
Well, I would say it's sufficient enough for making a forestry plan. Then it's more important when you actually do thinnings. You go to the forest to do something, so then at that point you need more detailed data, and then you have to go to the forest to really see what's there.
For example, this place where we are here right now, how would you describe the forest type here?
Well, this is not so fertile pine forest, a bit drier site. Of course, in a longer term we also want to have other species as to get some kind of a mixed structure, but I would say that pine will be the dominant species here like also in the future.
How would you describe this status of the forest here now?
Yeah, so this history of this whole area is that the idea has been to create this kind of quite even-aged one-sized stand. But now when we started to do continuous cover management here, so then we will do the cuttings with this thinning from above method. In later phases we will also do cuttings that start the regeneration of pine here. Okay. So then in a very long term this will be like a multi-storage stand. So we will have 2-3 different size classes here.
What is the rule of thumb? Where can you apply continuous cover forestry?
In the way I do it, so you can practically start in whatever starting point. Of course there's differences in what is the economical result in different starting points, but I would say that you can do it in every forest. The key thing is to make the thinnings in a different way. You give the forest kind of more time. You want to use the natural regeneration that the forest already has, and then manage it in a longer term so that you will kind of support the natural regeneration. And
if you look at this forest here, what are the things that you start kind of evaluating and analyzing before you do the actual planning here?
Having a picture of the structure, what kind of size classes do you have, what size of trees you have, how big is the size variation, what are the smallest trees, what are the biggest trees, what would you take away. Also the condition of the different trees, tree size classes. Are the small trees, are they like in a good condition, can you use them, should you do some kind of quality thinning, these kind of things.
Here we don't have that many spruces here, but anyway, how do you see the importance of having different tree species in the area?
Main idea also, or main goal, is to maintain mixed forests, mixed structure. So the more tree species you have, the better it is. In the past days, they kind of wanted to have one tree species here, one tree species here, and others were maybe taken away in the worst case. And now it's kind of a matter that whatever diversity you have in the forest when you start, things that you have little of you keep, and species you have more of, like pine here, you take. Some mixture of spruce, and we of course keep all of that. And then there's mixture of birch, that's especially valuable, so we keep that.
So we also always should have a mixture of trees.
That's a goal, yeah.
So in practice, now we are here not so far north, but if you compare the growth of the forest in the southern part of the Finland and then when you go further north, how much a difference is there in the speed of growth?
Well, it's easily like many times bigger in south than in north, so totally different level of growth.
How do you see the importance of continuous cover forestry applied in the Arctic forests?
The less fertile, less growing forest you have, continuous cover forestry is better because you don't have to invest in regeneration. It's quite evident that you should go like support natural regeneration that comes for free, and you manage the forest so that kind of keep it in a state that it manages itself.
Particularly in the northern forests, the regeneration is more critical because of the weather and climate situation. Is there something special that you should take into account when thinking about the regeneration in the Arctic area?
Well, I would say if you want to play safe, keep continuous cover in the forest. You will always have seeds. You won't have so harsh climate in that forest. You will have less like frost problems. You will have less sunburn. So the continuous cover is something you want to keep. It's kind of a insurance for having the forest ecosystem working all the time. You will have tree roots in the soil. You will have forest vegetation instead of something else like more open ground. So if you open, you will have more easy some problems. And if there will be some problems in regeneration, for example, then you will lose more and you will have a harder process in making everything again.
There are big areas that have clear cut above the Arctic Circle. What is your kind of idea and thinking on how quickly will there be a forest again?
Well, the experience of big clear cuttings that have been made like after the 50s or around there, it has been really difficult, and there has been like the regeneration process has been started all over again, like for many times. But you can regenerate the forest, of course, with that style also, but it takes like 50 years, 60 years, and still even after that, you will have a young forest, and it will still take time before you have really like timber trees.
So theoretically, you could say that if you want to play safe, you have continuous cover forestry.
Yes.
Why don't we take a little walk and see a location where you have already processed the forest and it has been cut?
Yeah, let's do that.
Not clear cut, but a continuous cover forestry. The machine has been working on cutting trees down. How would you describe this result here now?
Yeah, so this is our forest just after continuous cover management thinning. We have made a thinning from above, so we took big timber trees away, and we have been giving space to medium-sized small trees to then become new big trees. We have made the new driving roads here. The machine has then moved through the whole forest so that it can thin all the places. And
How much wood did we get here?
well, roughly some 70-80 cubic meters per hectare.
And what is the stem area here right now?
The amount of wood here is a bit less than 200 cubic meters per hectare. So we took maybe 1/3 away.
Is that roughly the amount that you should be taking away, or is it according to the forest owner how much he needs money or some other purpose?
Many times when you start from quite dense forest, so this kind of 1/3 removal is quite safe, and it gives the forest then time to adapt to new conditions, and you will not have such big risk for wind damage, different insect outbreaks. Yeah, I would say that's a good rule of thumb.
And this has been processed with a big machinery. What is the right machinery for continuous cover forestry processing?
Well, we actually work with the same machines than in also other forests, and technically it's about taking trees down, so you just have to take the right trees.
How do you train the operators to do the continuous cover forestry cutting? Is there some special tricks or understanding required?
It's important to really go into those decision-making moments where you actually have to, the machine stops here and the machine driver has to decide which trees to remove. So that's kind of the idea that I want to keep in mind when I give the instructions, that what should you actually do. If you give too loose instruction, then it can be really difficult to apply it in practice. So you should have a clear description of what tree species to take, which size classes, what do you want to spare, is there some special areas here, is there something you absolutely want to spare. This kind of manuscript for the cutting is really important, and it makes the whole process easy for everybody involved, both the planner and the machine driver. The most important is that the driver has good technical skills, so you can then apply whatever kind of cutting. So you don't have to make some decision about that I only do this or I only do that. And my experience is that machine drivers are many times very skillful. And
how do they in general react to requests that okay, we should now do continuous cover forestry?
Well, nowadays I think the attitude of machine drivers, it's quite good. They have this kind of service approach that they want to provide the forest owner what they want and according to their goals. I have only good experience of that end.
But when the operator, machine driver, is looking at the forest, he's kind of taking a look at it. Okay, how should this look in 10 years or 15 years? What is the scope? How far future do you need to take a look in your mind?
Yeah, that's a good view. That I would say maybe at least the next cutting you want to keep in mind. You want to see that, okay, what will there be for the next cutting and maybe the cutting after that. If you leave a forest as here, you see that there's a huge number of trees that are in the best value growth size. So and the stem number is very big, so you can be sure that this forest is now producing a very good income also for the next cutting. If you would have some doubts, if it would be too sparse, there will be some trees here and there, and you're not sure if they will be standing in after 10 years. So then you have done something wrong. But
Jussi, there's a lot to talk about that how continuous cover forestry management is not optimal for pine forests. What is your reaction on that?
Well, it's very possible in pine forests. You just have to make it so that it's suitable for pine biology and how pine forests naturally evolve. So practically it means that when you have this kind of a bit drier place, and maybe not so suitable for at least spruce dominant forest. You can have a spruce as a mixture. So it means you first manage the pine stand as you would manage a spruce stand. You have lots of good trees here now. After cutting, you have taken the big trees away. You have lots of growing smaller trees. You will want to take the advantage of those first. So the canopy will be closed. You want to maximize the amount of good timber trees that this forest will produce the coming decades. Next time we will again take some biggest away. It will become more sparse, a little bit more sparse. Trees get bigger. So by time the stem number goes down, and finally after maybe three rounds of thinnings, 40, 50 years from now, we will have very good quality pines left, and we can make a final last cutting for that generation of trees. So at that point we leave, let's say, 100, 150 pines from those that are now here. We leave them as a shelter wood. So then we create a good environment for that new generation of pine. And we can let those top quality 100, 150 trees growing there to become really big, really valuable. And at that time, that will take many decades, we will have a two-storied stand. So we will have a diverse sapling stand. There's already some size variation in that. And we will have those big top quality trees growing. And we won't have this kind of clear cutting situation.
But basically pine in a way requires more space, more light for regeneration, right?
Yeah, it requires more light, but it doesn't require like clear cutting. So, and of course also traditionally we have been making seed tree cuttings and cuttings like that, but maybe the difference in this philosophy is that formerly the idea of seed trees was only to provide the seeds for, let's say, 5 years, and then immediately when you have enough seedlings you take the seed trees away, but then finally you will have something quite close to a clear cutting. But in a continuous cover style, I would say that we want to keep those top quality trees there, increasing their value, providing landscape values, biodiversity values, continuous cover, all those benefits, and we ensure that there will be a new generation of pine. And finally, when we remove most of the upper layer big trees with a good income, we can also then thin the lower story, and we will again have a new younger phase of the forest, and we start again from this. So we then again make a series of thinning from above. And if you have a larger landscape scale area of pine forest managed like this, it will be continuous cover. There will be some more sparse places, more dense, but there won't be any clearly like just small seedling stands or clear cutting stands.
Are there any situations where you cannot apply continuous cover forestry?
There might be some places where it's just maybe more reasonable to make a clear cutting. A typical would be a very evenly spaced old spruce forest with lots of this root rot, which is problematic for having a new generation of spruce. So in that case you would maybe like to make a clear cutting, start with a more birch dominant new forest, and then start managing that with these principles that I described.
Very old, very dense forests probably don't have that much growth underneath there coming up.
Many times unmanaged forests have more variation in the structure. So even if you wouldn't have plenty of really small seedlings, you might still have plenty of this kind of already like small trees that you can use for economically growing them further and maintaining the continuous cover, and then later on you will also have new regeneration. So it's a big mistake that you would only check that if there's no regeneration here, we cannot do continuous cover. Then you will make big mistakes in deciding where you can apply what.
You mentioned the small seedlings. Sometimes they have been growing a long time there without a space for growth. What will happen to them when you make more space over there?
Well, gradually when they get more resources, they get less root competition, more light, they will start to, most of them will start to kind of increase their growth. They have been waiting there, and it's a part of their natural biology that they wait for their turn. And actually, well, spruce is very known for this. They can wait for 50 years, 100 years even. But we know from old studies that also pine, especially in the northern forests, they create this kind of underlayer of pine, and even they can be very old. They can be many decades old, even if they survive, but they don't grow. But when they get space, they will start to grow. And of course, that's a good news for continuous cover, because then you can have like a reserve of seedlings that wait for their turn. You don't have to have all the time like seedlings starting from zero.
So never take them away.
Never take them away, and they don't disturb anything, and they are many times really small there, and so it's just a benefit if you have those. And also in pine forest you can take the advantage of that process. When we finally have this more sparse phase of this forest, seedlings come up easily on this ground, sandy soil. So we probably will have already groups of small pines, and then we just make a cutting so that we ensure that we get like a clearly big generation of new pines, but we already have some. They don't have to start from zero.
Oftentimes it's so that you compare the result, how much wood are you providing for the pulp industry, for example. But if you are cutting mostly bigger trees, you also get pulp material, right?
Yeah.
What is the difference? How much importance does it play?
You also get pulpwood with this method, because trees, they have this top already always, and you will get pulpwood from there. And sometimes you have to remove some smaller trees, so you get pulpwood from that too. And but the goal from the forest owner's perspective and economical perspective is of course to produce something that is as valuable as possible, and it means that you want to maximize the amount you can produce this timber-sized wood, which is many times more expensive than pulpwood. As a result of that, you want to think in every forest that how can I produce as many big timber trees as possible from all these kind of smaller ones that have the potential to become that. So that's the one main idea in this type of
So
management.
get the best money from the big trees, and you still provide some pulp material from the sawmill leftovers, right?
Yeah, it's almost, it's more than half currently. So I wouldn't say that it's like a fight between pulp and timber. You will get both anyway.
So how would you describe the status of the forest here right now?
I would say that this is like a very economically productive forest now. Very big value growth, because there's so many trees just around 20 centimeters. In 10 years there will be very much more timber wood in this, and then you can again come and take an income.
But you are not always taking all the big trees out. You leave some special big trees, right?
In every forest you should also leave the biggest trees in that forest, and they produce most seeds, and of course they get then really big. They get earlier than smaller ones. So you want to have really big trees also from biodiversity point of view. We know that when pines are growing underneath bigger pines, they typically don't get very big branches, and the shape of the branches is optimal. So that's the way of creating like very good quality from the start.
I think this tree is not quite optimal. What would you say?
Yeah, so there we have an example of a biggest tree in this forest 50 years ago, all the trees were small, but some were a bit bigger, and they grew. They had the fastest growth, and also the branches grew very fast, and they had a lot of space. So finally, they had time to grow big branches. Then the trees got all trees got bigger. There was shade, and then the lower branches died. But because they were already quite big, so they are still seen here at our level. So it means that you will never get like branchless wood from this.
So the sawmill cannot produce good timber out of this kind of log, right?
Yeah, it's this kind of bad or medium quality. You can use it for many things, but you won't use it for the most valuable things like lists or very demanding wood that you want.
So this is maybe something that you would like to remove.
Yeah, it's an optimal tree to remove because you get money from it, but the value isn't so good, and you have better value trees around.
And so we are looking into other trees that may be creating better quality tree future, right? This one?
Typically it's like these sizes that are clearly smaller than that one. They have always been in this forest, in all of the forest history. They have been a little bit suppressed, so they didn't have possibility to grow big branches. The wood is denser than in that one. They are many times more straight, even though this is a bit leaning.
But that one
in
is, for
general,
example,
if you look at the medium-sized and small trees here, they are of better quality than the big ones. So by taking those, you give space to these, and these have the possibility to become really big trees, and they will now. The material that grows around them, it will be like totally branch free, so it's valuable.
Clean. How would you value the importance of density of the timber that we are growing? For example, when we go further north, the trees are dense, so there's more deep quality in those trees. What is the importance of that?
It's important, like of course, in most demanding. More demanding forms of use, like windows or traditional furnitures or whatever that has to be like strong wood. So their high wood density is a good thing, but also in general, if you make basic stuff for houses, and so they have to have like at least a minimum quality from this density perspective, like the strength. It cannot be like too loose wood, otherwise it won't keep burdens. It breaks, so you cannot sell it for structures that need certain strength. And some cases already now, when we have, for example, fertile ground spruce plantations that we made 50 years ago, they now start to be very big trees, but actually they have been growing very fast, and the wood is very, very weak.
Yeah,
so,
soft and weak.
Yeah, so we start to have like stands where you have timber sizes, but you don't have timber quality. That is the worst case.
Are we getting equivalent compensation, equivalent money for good quality tree already? Is there a difference?
There starts to be some difference, but it's not like a big volume thing still. If you have this perfect quality pine without any branches big, you will already find a buyer that pays you very much more. My guess is that when we start to have more and more of these older planted and cultivated forests that have poor quality, then wood buyers will start to appreciate even like medium or okay quality. So if you have a forest that provides like almost all trees are of at least okay or even better quality, they will be more interesting in the future than, let's say, a very fertile spruce plantation that have big trees, but they are so bad quality that you cannot use it.
So you may be getting a better price for your wood.
maybe if coming decades.
But this kind of tree, it doesn't make any sense to sell it for pulp.
They don't give very much timber now, but when you leave them growing, they will give, and the timber will be even more valuable. So why on earth would you sell this now when you can sell that one?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How is it with the birch or other tree plants? Is it the same thing?
Some birch qualities are very valuable. Like there also the branches are quite important. You want to have branchless bottom log, big size. There's also many things you can do for having like really top quality birch.
What would you do with the Arctic forest trees? How would you like to see them being used?
So maybe this is not the place to produce this kind of low quality big masses of pulp. Of course there's a place for that too. We will always produce also energy, we will produce pulpwood, but I would say that we would optimize the forest so that it produces as much as possible of this high value timber. And I want to add that actually when we do this kind of continuous cover management, we don't have to let go of any economic benefit by sparing good quality individuals, but because it's also, even if we wouldn't get more money from good quality, so still it's reasonable just because of the size to take the big trees. We get the money now, leave smaller ones, they will give us the money in future. So it's kind of additional benefit that if it's top quality, we might get even substantially much more money.
You have long experience comparing different methods. How would you sum up the economical benefits of the continuous cover forestry?
The biggest benefit is this idea of thinning from above. So you remove economically mature trees, you leave unmature trees that have the potential to increase their value and provide you still very many good incomes in the future. So in this way you will have the capital that you have in the forest, it's producing as well as possible. The second advantage is that you maintain the forest in a state that it supports natural regeneration. If you get seedlings for free, you get them for free. You don't have to put money into creating that artificially. The forest doesn't have to be like a field of some one tree species to be economical. It can have many tree species, it can have a diverse structure and still be economical.
Maybe that's also something that how the animals see it.
You want to have some places where you're protected, you want to have some places where you get food, so this diverse forest provides all of these, but if you have a field of trees, that doesn't provide very much of anything.
And if we have a clear-cut area, then we don't have anything.
Well,
so
then you don't have a forest for a while, I think.
And that is not good for travel industry or any industry either.
It's a huge potential for all this kind of other economics that we have related to forest, biodiversity values and stuff like that. We could have like very, very nice places in Finland. They could be even more nice if we would manage the forest in a different way.
So when you still have the forest there, you still have all the other options available as well.
Yeah. Variation is good, and it's also a very natural thing for forests.
Thank you, Jussi, a lot. And I believe that we all need to look into creating better future for all of forest, particularly in the Arctic area. That's our mission.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jussi. That was a load of information. So I believe that there was quite a bit to digest in that clip. Do we have Jussi online here right now?
Hello. Yeah, hello, Sampo.
Hello. Thank you for that discussion. We have been receiving some questions. So first one, if the small trees are not cut in continuous cover forestry, how does the forest industry get wood for pulp and paper? Or should there not be that kind of industry in Finland?
Well, yeah, hello everybody. So I'm once again Jussi Saarinen from Silmu and also Tuohi, another company, forest owning company. And Yeah, like we already had that topic in the video. It was nice to see that. Thank you, Sampo. I didn't see it before, but nice stuff, and nice that you visited the forest. Well, like I answered there, so even in this continuous cover system, you will remove also pulpwood from the tops of bigger trees, and sometimes you also remove smaller trees, do some quality thinning. So you will also harvest pulpwood, and when the timber sized wood go to sawmills, you will eventually have also lots of pulpwood as a side product.
Can you elaborate on that? What is the actual percentage difference in getting pulp material? How would you say that? Is it 20-30% difference if compared to if you're doing even edge forestry?
Well, I don't have a precise answer for that. Like if we look at the statistics currently in Finland, we cut around 40% of timber-sized wood and 60 of pulpwood of the whole mass, whole annual cuttings. So that gives us some clue about the difference, because then when we do in current forests, when we do continuous cover cuttings, the average percentage of timber wood is around 60, 70, 80 if it's some bigger trees in the forest. So I would say it's clearly above 60 on average, at least here in southern Finland. So I would say some tens of percentage difference.
And for the forest owner, it's almost always more financially viable option to sell the bigger trees, as you mentioned in the video. Yeah, we have another question. What about damage to the roots when the logging is done in 15 to 20 years? How would you elaborate on that?
Well, when you go to the forest with machines, I think it should be clear that you want to make the cutting so that you don't do too strong damage to root systems, and that means choosing the time of the cutting. If you have a spruce-dominated forest, I would do the cuttings always during winter time, late autumn, early spring, maybe when you still have some frost or we are close to 0 degrees, because then you won't have this most problematic fungi spores in the air, this root rot fungi, Heterobasidion fungi. So even if we wouldn't have such a great winter in Finland, in southern Finland, 1 year, I would still do the cuttings in winter in spruce forest. But then if you have a more dry site like a pine forest, then you can do the cuttings also during summertime or autumn, like we did just in video. So you have a load-bearing soil, you don't make very much damage, and roots of pine are quite deep, so you won't damage them. And then you want to protect the trails. The machine typically takes all the harvest residues on the trails, so that will protect the roots. You will choose good spots for having the trails so they are as dry as possible. You don't want to drive some the most moist places. So with this kind of actions, you can ensure that you won't make too much damage. Yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Katja Lamminen, for these questions. And we have another one from Johanna from Netherlands. I have a question about thinning methods. Apart from thinning the high trees, what method and machinery should be used according to the goals of the continuous cover forest? If I understand the continuous growth model correctly, you cut trees more often than in the even growth model. Is there not a bigger risk then to damage the forest for the soil and for other life?
A little bit the same topic as in my previous answer. So I guess that answered the same question. Maybe I want to add that you have to remember that also in the rotation system you make thinnings. You go to the forest between the thinnings. It's like 15 or 20 years, maybe here in southern Finland even less. So practically the difference is that between clear cutting and the first commercial thinning, you have a little bit longer period, maybe 30 years here in southern Finland. So it's not such a dramatical difference. So I would say we want to focus on making the cutting so that we won't have problems even if we go to the forest. Many times I think for the whole forest and to have the forest working as a whole biologically, it's better to especially in the start, it's better to make thinnings that are not so intense. You don't want to remove too much, and instead you make like a slight thinning, and you come back maybe a bit early, even in 10 years. Even in some cases you can come back in 7 years if you really want to ensure that the trees left adapt to new conditions, and you can manage the forest so that you won't have problems with wind, insects, and stuff like that. So I would say that those have more impact of those are bigger than the minus of having some more cuttings during certain periods.
Thank you. Then we have a question from Paula Koch regarding the example of pine stands that we were seeing. If after several cuttings lowered stem number and mature pine left in the overstory, spruce as a highly competitive and thriving species in the half-light might become the main species in natural regeneration or understory and suppress pine in the understory. Can this situation of the sprucification be considered a risk or a situation to manage against? Quite good question.
Yeah, important question related to pine forests and their dynamics. Many times it's brought up as a problem. If we can use the term sprucification, so that you will have more spruce regeneration, suppressing pine regeneration. So if you don't do anything to that, you will of course have a spruce dominant new forest, and if the ground is fertile enough and you will have enough moisture, that's not a problem. You can continue with that. But if you're on a site where you want to have pine dominance in a longer term also, so then I would say that we can see the spruce also as a benefit, a small benefit, because it's free and nothing stops you from actually then in a suitable phase of the cutting cycles, when you actually want to have the pine regeneration, nothing stops you from removing the small spruces, and maybe they are already some are of pulpwood dimensions, some are of small timber dimensions. So actually you can get some additional income from then removing those spruces that came there for free. So that's rather a economical benefit. And then if there would still be too much of small seedlings of spruce, you might have to clean them just like as a small cost, you take them down. But in large scale, you can ensure pine dominance by just removing the spruces in a suitable time.
Thank you. Actually, I like that term, sprucification, quite a bit. Thank you, Paolo, for that. And this is actually also often the situation what you see in the new forest when you are using even-edge forestry. But let's do so that we learn a little bit more about peatland situation. We have another video from forest, and that's quite a bit shorter one. But let's take a look at that and return to the discussion with Jussi after that, shall we?